The restaurant was half full that evening, filled with the soft hum of conversations and the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans. Outside, rain traced slow rivers down the window panes, and inside, Emma sat alone at a small table for two, fingers nervously circling the rim of her coffee cup. The clock above the counter ticked louder with every passing minute. Her blind date, someone she'd only talked to online, was now 30 minutes late. She'd told herself not to expect much, but deep down, she'd hoped maybe this time would be different. Maybe she'd finally meet someone genuine, but the empty chair across from her stayed empty. Hey friends, before we jump into this emotional story, don't forget to subscribe to Kindness in Action, where real stories remind us that compassion still exists in the world. If this story touches your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and tell us in the comments about a time when kindness surprised you. Now, let's get into today's story. Emma sighed and glanced once more at her phone. No message. No call. Just silence. She forced a smile at the waitress, who refilled her coffee with a sympathetic look. Maybe he's just running late, she murmured to herself, though her voice cracked slightly. She hated feeling foolish, sitting there, dressed up, her heart half open and already bruised. She was about to ask for the check when the bell above the cafe door jingled. Two little girls, maybe 5 or 6 years old, walked in hand. They were identical twins, wearing matching red leather jackets and big curls bouncing with each step. They looked around, scanning the room with serious little faces, until their eyes landed on Emma. Then, as if on cue, they both smiled. One of them marched up to her table with confidence that only a child could have. "Are you Miss Emma?" she asked, her voice soft but sure. Emma blinked, taken aback. Yes. That's me." The other twin giggled and tugged on her sister's sleeve. "We found her." Then, with the kind of seriousness that melted hearts, the first twin said, "Our daddy's sorry he's late. He's parking the car." Emma's confusion melted into a surprised laugh. "Your daddy?" Both girls nodded enthusiastically. "He said we could come tell you so you don't think he forgot," one said. "He said you're really special." Emma's cheeks warmed. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She gestured to the chairs. "Well, you two can sit down if you like." They climbed into the seats across from her, their legs swinging above the floor. "We like your dress," one said shyly. "It's pretty." "Thank you," Emma said with a smile that felt genuine for the first time that night. "You girls are pretty too. I love your jackets." They beamed. "Daddy got them for us," one said proudly. "He said red means brave." Emma laughed softly. "That's a good color for brave girls." Just then, the door chimed again. A tall man walked in, shaking the rain from his jacket. He looked around the cafe, spotted the twins, and immediately hurried over. "There you are," he said, his voice warm but slightly breathless. "I told you to wait by the door." "Daddy," the girls chorused. "We found her already." The man turned to Emma, a little flustered. "You must be Emma." "I'm Daniel." "I'm so sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare," and the girls insisted on bringing flowers, but they dropped them in a puddle on the way in. Emma couldn't help but laugh. "It's okay. You had very capable messengers." Daniel smiled sheepishly. "They tend to take charge." He looked at his daughters, who were now playing with the sugar packets. "Girls, say sorry for interrupting Miss Emma's quiet evening." "Sorry," they said in unison. Emma shook her head. "You didn't interrupt anything. You made it better." Something in Daniel's eyes softened at that. He looked tired, but kind. The kind of tired that comes from working too hard for the sake of others. As they talked, Emma learned that Daniel was a single dad. His wife had passed away 2 years earlier, and ever since, he'd been doing his best to raise his daughters while holding down 2 jobs. He hadn't dated anyone since. "I almost canceled tonight," he admitted quietly. "I didn't think anyone would want to deal with all this." He gestured toward the girls, who were now giggling over a pile of napkins. Emma looked at them and then back at him. "You know," she said softly, "I think anyone who wouldn't want this is missing out on something pretty special." The rest of the evening unfolded like a scene from a movie. They talked about everything: family, loss, faith, dreams, and the girls chimed in every now and then with bursts of innocent wisdom. When Daniel stepped away to take a call, one of the twins leaned over and whispered, "Daddy smiles more when he talks to you." Emma's heart caught in her throat. As the night drew to a close, Daniel insisted on walking her to her car. The twins waved from the window as he said, "Thank you for not walking out before I got here." Emma smiled. "Thank you for showing up with extra company." He chuckled. "They don't really give me much choice." She hesitated for a second, then said, "I'm glad they didn't." They exchanged numbers before parting ways. That night, as Emma drove home through the rain, she realized something unexpected. This hadn't just been a date. It had been a reminder that kindness often shows up when we least expect it. Sometimes it walks in with messy curls and matching red jackets, carrying apologies from a stranger who turns out to be anything but. A few weeks later, Emma found herself back in that same cafe, but this time, she wasn't alone. The twins sat beside her, sipping hot chocolate, while Daniel stood in line ordering their favorite pastries. When he returned, he set a flower on the table, a single red rose. "Didn't drop it this time," he said with a grin. Emma laughed, and the girls clapped like it was the happiest ending in the world, and maybe, in a way, it was because kindness had done what it always does: it turned strangers into friends, pain into purpose, and a lonely evening into the beginning of something new in life. Kindness doesn't always arrive wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it's late. Sometimes it comes with sticky fingers and giggles. But it always arrives exactly when we need it most. So, if you're out there waiting, whether for love, hope, or just a sign that goodness still exists, don't give up. Someone kind might already be on their way, and when they show up, even if they're a little late, make sure to smile and let them in, because one small act of kindness can change everything. Thanks for watching, friends. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe.